slow down. You're not racing yet. Radiator Racers is going down this month. Friends, today we're going to look at 6 current closed attractions, 3 attractions that are reopening this month, but 3 more that will be taking their place on the closed list later on in the month and the beginning of March. Disneyland will be closing 5 nights early this month, and there's another casualty from the Haunted Mansion project that's growing behind me. Brickey here, what do you say? Let's look at everything that's closed for the month of February, giving you the best information possible on how to set your expectations and set your plan for your next visit to Disneyland during February 2024. And with both Haunted Mansion and Splash Mountain both being down, the newly added Lightning Lane to Pirates of the Caribbean is going about as predicted. There is a massive queue of people standing over the bridge, the courtyard is full, and the line in the sidewalks backs up all the way to the edge of Tiana's palace. This is what progress looks like. An attraction that is just a simple people eater that normally can flow guests through, even on the busiest of days, inside of 30 minutes, is backed up and has people all over New Orleans Square. But then again, there's nothing else to do in New Orleans Square, so what's it matter? And friends, another closure casualty due to the Haunted Mansion project is the New Orleans train station will be closed for quite some time, as Magnolia Park, that the New Orleans train station empties you out to and that you walk through to load the train, is under serious refurbishment. I'm doing a look at the trees, and I can tell that some of the larger trees of Magnolia Park up at the front are still there. I think though that one was taken out in the back edge. This area will be an area of influx and transformation for quite some time to come. So here you can see the different walls that is your end point of this construction project. It ends right at the corner of where you grab your beignets. It begins again over at the corner of Tiana's palace. And then you see that these walls run the entire length of not only Magnolia Park, but the Haunted Mansion until you get to the exit of the Haunted Mansion, where the gift shop project has not begun yet. Currently, all we can really see over from Pelican's Landing is they have lots of tarps there, heavy equipment moved in, piles of dirt. This entire eastern end of the Haunted Mansion is going to be a complete rebuild. To be determined what exactly that part looks like, but let's break down some of the things we know so far that are happening actually inside of the mansion. Now what we know that is happening internally to the Haunted Mansion so far is they're putting in a new elevator which will allow for better ADA compliance. Because currently the way the Haunted Mansion was designed is that the stretching room that everyone takes down, those that are in wheelchairs and scooters had to come back to the stretching room and ride it back up, which created a bottleneck in letting guests into the attraction as everybody is waiting for that elevator to make its return back up to ground level. Having a second exit point for ADA will mean that those folks can go out a separate elevator, therefore keeping the stretching room moving at a faster pace. And if you've noticed, when you ride the attraction, lots of times little spooks will break down the ride. That shouldn't happen as much because now the circuit of the Haunted Mansion will be moving at a more efficient pace now that folks that need extra time actually have a space to take that extra time for loading and unloading and taking the elevator out of the attraction. We also learned that there are going to be new projectors that will be put at the show level. It is projected that these projectors are going to have something to do with the new experience with Hitchhiking Ghosts that will ride out the attraction with us when possibly we become the 1,000th spirit to join the Haunted Mansion at the end of the attraction. That's what we know that is happening to the ride specifically, but in the park behind me, as we all know, the expanded queue is being put out there, but the old queue is gone. Disney said that the Pet Cemetery would survive, so it'll be curious to see how much of this gets rebuilt. But all the exterior walls, all the gates, everything that is set on the eastern end of the Haunted Mansion for decades is gone. It is a pile of dirt. So therefore, of course, the Haunted Mansion is going to be closed for the month of February and months to come. But when will the train open back up? That's a huge question for Disneyland fans that love taking the train around the park. And when Fantasmic returns later on this year, taking the train as an exit and entry point to Fantasmic is pretty crucial for those of us that know that strategy. friends, don't abandon me like Disney has abandoned Hollywoodland. What do you say? Make sure to subscribe to Hey Brickey. Go on this adventure with me. 3 curated videos each and every week, trying to take you back into the park and give you a window into the magic when you can't be here, breaking down the past so we can better understand the future. Thank you so much for subscribing to Hey Brickey. Now back to everything that's closed for the month of February. Friends, the Astro Orbiter is scheduled to reopen March 7th after closing back in November. Did you miss it? Because I sure didn't. But it will be returning next month, giving the younger citizens of Disneyland a little sore, a little rip around the Tomorrowland. And you can see the Disneyland band is filing in behind me. And on the other side of the construction project that will never finish, there is now a Magic Key spot where Magic Key holders get a great photo of the castle, and they got it all blocked off so regular folks can't walk by and rip that pic. A lot happening over here on the hub, and what's there to be said about an attraction that can actually be removed and taken from Disneyland and brought back? Over on the edge of Grizzly Peak, we can see new scrims have been put up around Humphreys as well as the restrooms. But once again, don't worry, both locations are still open and active. Just a little bit more design put into this space, which probably means it's going to go a little bit longer than what we first expected. And it makes sense that they would work on this side of Grizzly Peak, as they are also on the other side working on Grizzly River Run. Grizzly River Run is scheduled to reopen February 29th, the very last day of this leap year month. Currently, we can see that the water is drained. Not a lot of progress since we did our update for DCA in the month of January. Nothing too shocking here. This is one that goes down around this time every year so they can do some of the maintenance that's required due to all the water erosion that this attraction takes over the course of a year. Now, surprisingly, it looks like they are doing some work to the front DVC building that exists over in the footprint of this land. You can also see this little space across from Russian River Outfitters is boarded off. This is typically just a little observation deck, sometimes used for character meet and greets. Upon further inspection, it looks like they're possibly extending this deck out, definitely redoing the safety banisters on the other side. This is such a quiet and relaxing part of DCA, where the transformation of Grizzly Peak goes over to the Grand Californian Hotel. Absolutely love to see any improvements to create more vibe spots in one of my favorite parts of DCA. And friends, the Mark Twain that is behind me is scheduled to reopen February 9th after closing back in the middle of September. This is a project that I've been very excited about, as they have taken the Mark Twain literally down to the base of the structure and nearly replaced everything. New windows, new light bulbs, a new paddle wheel in the back. This thing has gotten a head-to-toe refurbishment from this opening day classic, and I'm so excited to see that it's going to be returning to the Rivers of America later on this month. And that means that we're a step closer to my challenge, where it's going to be Mark versus Mark, a fun live stream coming soon to Hey Brickey. I hope you'll enjoy another one of my creative and bizarre Disneyland stunts, where this time I'm going to race a steamboat. More details to come on Mark versus Mark, but I look forward to seeing the Mark Twain lapping the Rivers of America again February 9th, and hopefully that's going to give us some good looks over to the Haunted Mansion. One of the absolute best vibe spots of the Disneyland Resort is closed right now. Fowler's Harbor. This is as far as you can go on the Tiana's Bayou Adventure side, the Critter Country side, and over here is as far as you can go over on the New Orleans Square side of Fowler's Harbor. Don't worry, they're not doing anything to it that I'm aware of. It appears that right now they're using it as a staging area for all the workers that are doing the painting and the final touches on the Mark Twain. If I look over the rail, and I'm not going to film this because I don't know if I should or not, you can see that they have all their buckets out there, a lot of their work, and there's currently workers there right now that are on their lunch break, so I don't want to be rude and film them when they're on the clock but not doing things on the clock. But it's a staging area for the final touches of the Mark Twain. So this vibe spot, don't worry, it's coming back. I could never stand to lose it. And of course, Tiana's Bayou Adventure closed for the entire month of February, but a lot of development since we were here last month. We have seen the water tower make its way out to the west coast. Out here, it is very close to the side of the mountain. There's been straps there to kind of give it extra support as Imagineers and construction workers are getting it sort of permanently attached to the side of the mountain. Out at Walt Disney World, it's a bit further out as that version of the attraction has a more expansive footprint. We see the tower pushed a little bit closer over here, but it looks like it's working well with the overall perspective that this ride needs to invoke as you're coming up through New Orleans Square. As I showed you last month on the Closed series, they are doing some of the texturing. We're in the mode right now where they've already done most of the demo. They're now sculpting and giving the mountain more of a hill type shape, and we'll know when this part of the project is done once we start to see them planting plant life all on the outside of Splash Mountain. As we've learned from Walt Disney World, it's way more of a rolling hill, which I do believe during the daytime will look pretty good, but it appears that at night it's going to invoke a little bit of influence from Pandora out at Animal Kingdom, which is absolutely breathtaking. So there's not a lot going on once you get to the Haunted Mansion. The nearest attraction is Winnie the Pooh, and after 10 o'clock at night, it's not Rise of the Resistance because that closes early. It would actually be Millennium Falcon's Smuggler's Run. So quite the journey from the edge of the Haunted Mansion to Winnie the Pooh to Rise of the Resistance or Smuggler's Run until you get to another attraction. This one is scheduled to open up later on this year. We will also see the Emotional Whirlwind reopen on February 8th. This attraction went down at the end of January. This is one that closes typically this time every year. Curious that they close it during Lunar New Year though, when there's more families and more little ones in this corner of the park than ever. All right, friends, that was everything that's currently closed. Now let's look at some upcoming refurbishments that we can expect to take place towards the end of this month and going into March. Now, probably the worst closure that we have coming up, Radiator Racers will be going down on February 26th, but coming back up on March 1st. Not a long-term shutdown, but this is a fan favorite. So if you're coming out at the end of February, keep in mind the racers will be going down on the 26th, but if you're coming in the month of March, it should be back and open, running perfectly, and ready for you to rip. This attraction never gets old. Hands down, best ride inside of DCA. Dr. Jones. Coming up March 4th, the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail will be closing for an unknown amount of time. Probably a transformation to get the Lunar New Year exhibit removed and get it back to its natural state. This go at your own pace attraction is kind of DCA's equivalent of Toontown, giving the youngest citizens of Disneyland a area to run, stretch their legs, and just to be free for a while. The Incredicoaster will be going down on March 4th, which is pretty important to note that it will be going down a few days after Radiator Racers opens back up. This park would be in a bad situation if both Racers and Incredicoaster were down at the same time, as this park really only has 3 thrill attractions for the older citizens of Disneyland. We don't know when the Incredicoaster will open back up, but we do know that it's been having difficulties lately. So this is probably going to be a little bit more maintenance, because if you remember back in December, we were announcing that it would be closed at the start of the holiday season right after Thanksgiving. So seeing it go down just months after its last refurbishment is probably a good indication that there are a couple of things wrong with the Incredicoaster that they want to take a swing at ironing out and getting it back to running in pristine order. Now, something to keep in mind, Disneyland will be closing early over 5 nights this month to let folks in for the after hours, after dark event, Sweethearts Night. February 1st, 6th, 8th, 12th, and 14th, Disneyland will be closing early, and DCA closes at 9 o'clock that night. So you will run out of park experience on those days. If you're a Magic Key holder, maybe a great day to experiment about coming to a day at the park where maybe people don't buy a full day's ticket because they're not going to be able to get a full day's experience. Keep in mind, those are the dates when Disneyland closes early. Plan ahead and don't be shocked when you get here and go, wait a minute, we got to be out of the park at 9 and not midnight. That's everything that is closed for the month of February at the Disneyland Resort. I hope if you come out, this helps you have a great time. And if you enjoyed today's video, you will enjoy my Disneyland Forward series, where each month I do videos breaking down the future of the Disneyland Resort. Thank you so much for watching. Let's jump over here right now and have more Disneyland fun.